It's Andrea Darlas in for Steve Cochran. We're calling a little bit of an audible. We're going to touch base with Steve Cochran after the 8:30 news and move up to now my good friend Nick Digilio. What's up, buddy?
Hey, how are you?
Love talking to you. I wish you were in studio. I miss you.
Yeah,
I know it's only been a week, but
yeah, less than a week. Actually,
love talking to you. You know, just so you know, I stop myself every time I start watching a new show because I don't want to be one of those people who are like, hey, what do you think of this? Hey, what do you think of this? But when I saw Fall of the House of Usher, I thought, because I know you love Edgar Allan Poe.
My favorite writer of all time.
His stories, his poems, his short stories, everything. And I thought of you immediately when I saw the Fall of the House of Usher because I really liked it, and I hope you did too.
Yeah, I like it. I have issues with it because it just seems like, first of all, the guy who made it is a guy named Mike Flanagan, who has been doing a lot of Poe stuff and making a name for himself in the horror genre. Like he did the sequel to The Shining called Dr. Sleep from a few years back, which is really great and really scary. And a lot of the stuff that he's been doing Poe-wise, on Netflix, has been pretty strong. And I think this is one of the better things he's done. I have some issues with it as a Poe fanatic, but I like the idea basically that, like, you take a whole bunch of Poe stories and ideas and update them to the 21st century. And how do you do that? Well, you take on the pharmaceutical companies. And in this one, it's Bruce Greenwood, Mary McDonald. They play brother and sisters who run this Fortunato. Get it? Fortunato.
Yes.
Pharmaceuticals. And it's about how this evil sort of force led by Carla Gugino sort of takes this family down.
Boy, she plays a good role. I like her a lot.
Yeah, she's great. She's amazing. She's in like 4 things that this guy has made. It's funny. It's also got it's really pointed and it's timely about the whole pharmaceutical companies. And so it has a political undertone to it, but it's also creepy, and she's great, and the cast is really good. Overall, it's pretty strong stuff. If you like what this director and this writer has done with all the other Edgar Allan Poe stuff, this is pretty consistent. I think people will enjoy it. It's pretty cool. I'm glad you liked it.
I did like it, and I do like the fact that he uses the same cast in different roles. I mean, I'm a fan of that. I liked the old American Horror Story, and I know a lot of different shows have done that, and I'm kind of a fan of that. Are you?
Oh yeah. Well, listen, I directed theater for a long time, and people were like, "Oh, so you have the same cast in this show?" And I'm like, yeah, because I work well with them.
Because they're good.
When you work, because they're good, you like it, you can work. You can speak in shorthand, and and if the cast is good, why not use them over again? I think it's great.
All right, from the good to the ugly, I got to ask you about Frasier.
Oh man,
the reboot,
brutal, absolutely brutal.
Yeah.
The first 4 episodes are up, and I got through like 2.5 of them before I had to turn it off, and I might go back and try and watch it because I understand that Lilith comes back, and I love Baby Newworth very much. But the last couple of seasons of Frasier, if you go back and watch the last couple of seasons of Frasier, they were pretty rough. And this is just, Dave Hyde, nobody's back. It's like they take none of the characters that you love are back. And obviously John Mahoney died, and they talk about that in the first episode of the show, that his father passed away. And they bring him back to Boston, but he doesn't go back to Cheers. He starts teaching at Harvard, and he moves in with his son so that he could be the crabby old guy. And his son has a friend who's got a baby, so there's a baby involved. And then Daphne and Niles' son, who is Frasier's nephew, he has the Niles role in it. They try to fill all the roles.
But
with
you
other
can't.
actors.
No, you can't.
You can't. And it's the writing is horrible. I mean, it's really, really bad.
That's a show. I wish they would have just let it be.
I agree. I totally agree. And I love Cheers, and I loved Frasier.
Yeah, me
and like
too.
I said, the last couple of seasons where Frasier were a little shaky. But this thing is just unwatchable. It's awful.
God.
Absolutely awful.
So depressing, because again, it was a good show, and they
Classic.
should just let it be.
Classic.
Let it be.
Yeah,
let's switch to a couple of movies that are coming out this week. Old Dads.
Oh man.
Go from bad to worse.
I love Bill Burr. I think Bill Burr is a very funny and caustic comedian. People know him stuff. He says stuff that that a lot of people don't want to say. And Bobby Cannavale, I love him too, and Bokeem Woodbine. And basically, it's about these middle-aged guys who open a company. They sell their company to a bunch of millennials. And then every single joke in it is about, these young punks, and I'm old. And it's all about like guys around my age in their late 50s like basically bitching about millennials and Gen Z and stuff like that. And the joke gets tired very, very quick.
Yeah.
It's they make a ton of woke jokes, and it's like, yeah, this generation now, they don't get us. And it's like old guys at this time trying to deal with the young generation. It's an old joke. And man, it runs out of steam really, really quickly.
Enough,
it's not, and it's too bad because it's a great cast, a really, really great cast that I like a lot. But man, it's a waste.
All right, how about something that's really good? The Burial. Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah, Tommy Lee Jones and Jamie Foxx.
Okay.
And it's a courtroom drama and sort of a comedy where they take on the troubles of, like, Jamie Foxx plays this lawyer who takes on the troubles of this funeral home, and the funeral home owner is played by Tommy Lee Jones. And it's surprisingly good because Tommy Lee Jones has been, like, I don't know, the past like 10 years, Tommy Lee Jones shows up and he just seems angry all the time.
Yes.
And like he doesn't want to be there.
Yes.
And he's grumpy. And a lot of the performances he's given in movies and things like that have not been very good. I've never been a fan of Jamie Foxx ever.
I haven't really. I'm not either.
These two guys, no, never. These two guys who are like, oh God, this is not going to be good. It's about a funeral home. It's a lawyer drama. We've seen a million of those, but somehow this thing works. It's very entertaining. You really get into the story. And I was surprised at how much I enjoyed it. It's a great, really entertaining courtroom drama with two terrific performances by actors who I didn't think were pretty capable of giving great performances at this point, but I really enjoyed it. It's on Prime. That one's on Prime Video.
And that's The Burial and Quiz Lady rounding us out.
Quiz Lady is hilarious. I happen to think that Awkwafina is she's one of my favorite humans on the planet. I love
her too, Nick. She's so funny.
She's hilarious. Her show on Comedy Central, Awkwafina's Nora from Queens, is one of my favorite shows on TV. I've loved her since the very, she started rapping years ago. I've loved her in all the movies. And this is with her and Sandra Oh, and they play a woman. Well, Awkwafina plays a woman who watches way too much quiz show TV, and she ends up getting on a quiz show, and it's about their adventure traveling to the quiz show and what happens. Between these two women, Sandra Oh and Awkwafina, there are a ton of laughs in this movie. Like, it is laugh out loud funny. If you're a game show geek like I am, you'll also really love it. But just to watch Sandra Oh and Awkwafina work off of each other, I mean, they're both absolutely hilarious in it, and I think it's great. It starts streaming tomorrow, and that's Quiz Lady, and that's on Hulu. But I highly recommend it, especially if you're an Awkwafina fan. It's Sandra Oh is great as well. But no, I thought Quiz Lady was hilarious, and it's on Hulu.
I knew you and I were kindred spirits. My afternoon now becomes Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune. So,
well, sure, of course, yeah, because you're a normal American human being. That's why.
I love you so much. I'll plug the Nick D podcast and the SNL podcast too.
Okay, the new Nick D podcast drops tomorrow. Amy Guth is going to be my special guest, and you can check that out. That's the Nick D podcast every Tuesday and Friday on radiomisfits.com. And my Saturday Night Live podcast drops every Wednesday. That's also at radiomisfits.com, and that's called That Show Hasn't Been Funny in Years. And my old friend Sean Abley will join me for the next new episode from the Factory Theater, and we talk about his favorite sketches of all time. So, and all that stuff is available on every single platform that you can find your podcasts and at radiomisfits.com.
Perfect. You're the best. Thank you, Nick.
Thanks, Andrea. You rule.
Have a great weekend. It's the great Nick Digilio.